Now finally, we're going to go to an area of geometry that I call the unholy trio, because there's three versions of non-manifold geometry. Some are more common formations than others, and this is the one that's definitely going to hurt upstream workflows. This is the one that's going to make tools not work. This is going to be the one that definitely will create pinching in areas of your geometry that you did not plan for. This is going to do things that it's going to frustrate the heck out of you. And right now, let's start with the first one, the most common, I think, which is the idea of having opposing face normals. All right. And again, sometimes when you're working, you don't know that this is on. Now I have my face normals on, and it's obvious that, these, or somewhat obvious that, these normals are flipped here, and they should be more aligned on the inside and facing with these. But here's some other ways. Let's say you don't have this on. Let's say you don't want to work with this on all the time, because sometimes it's a pain. Let's say you're just working away. And let's say I needed to add the bevel tool. I'll go ahead here, select this edge, and I'm going to put it on these edges right over here. Let's just say I need it. Use the bevel tool, nothing happens. Now, as a beginner student or as a modeler that's trying to get out of beginner status, right away it's really easy to say, you know what, Maya doesn't work. What happened there? But the truth of the matter is, in the presence of problem geometry, Maya's looking at that like, whoa, what's going on? So it doesn't like it. That's a good way that Maya tells you in some ways that it doesn't like problem geometry. Tools aren't going to work. All right. So what's the fix? Well, we got to get these faces flipped. So you can manually select these faces and then go to reverse them. All right. Or you can do what we call conform. Now, before we go on to use those tools, I'm going to show you one other visual artifact that also is a sign of problem geometry or non-manifold geometry, and specifically flipped normals in an area. If I hit the 3 key, I'm going to get this formation. And it looks like a crease of some kind, right at the point where this geometry and this part of the geometry meet. Now, under normal circumstance, when I hit the 3 key, that should smooth. And the only time it could even remotely get that sharp is if I manually crease that edge or I put holding edges. But I didn't do any of that with that particular piece of geometry. So you have to question this formation. All right? So it's the fact that you're getting that kind of scenario. And again, if I run the tool, hit apply, yellow verts are going to highlight. And that's the first indicator that we have problem geometry, because we get the yellow verts highlighting. Any type of non-manifold geometry is going to highlight with yellow verts. So that's for sure. All right? So what's the fix? Let's go ahead and show you a couple of ways. You can manually select the faces and say, let's go reverse them. All right? Or what I like to do when I'm modeling is I like to go ahead and use the conform tool. And what the conform tool does is that it'll search out your entire piece of geometry, figure out what needs to be flipped, and then get it back facing with the majority of faces that are going one way or the other. So what does good topology look like when you hit the 3 key now? Well, for one thing, that's more like it. That is expected around this area. All right? And check this out. When I want to go ahead and use the bevel tool and go here, it works. So the moral of the story is fix your stuff. And again, if we run the tool, no issues, highlight, we're good to go. Okay? Now, unconnected components can kind of show up in a few different ways. This is more, an obvious one where you have faces, but they're being attached, missing faces, all right, but they're attached by a vert. So while they're connected here, there isn't material around this, and Maya freaks out about that connection. So again, if we run the tool, all right, Maya is going to highlight this area and tell us that connection it distrusts. So one or two things. You got to look at it and say, do I need that connection there? Do I need that geometry? If I need it there, I'm just going to go ahead and extract that piece of geometry so it lives on its own, but you don't have a formal attachment at the vert level. If you don't need it, get rid of it and then move on. Run the tool, you're good to go. So you got to decide how you want the artwork to be there. Now, unmerged verts, well, that's interesting because sometimes they show up in ways where you don't realize it. For example, if I'm running with the Insert Edge Loop tool, oh my God, what's going on? It works here, but it doesn't work here. I don't get it. It's going through there, but it's not going through there. So Maya is telling us, it's talking to us and saying something's wrong. Now, the Insert Edge Loop tool not going through that might be an indicator of n-gons, but it could also be an indicator of separated verts, which means these edges aren't glued together. And one of the hallmarks visually of finding this issue is what I call these kind of, I guess these wave-like bands. I call them the swimmies. You can call them what you want. But when I see that, when I hit the 3 key, because right now in one mode you couldn't even tell if there was an issue. But in 3 key, if I don't expect this to be happening and I get this, I got to question it. All right? So again, if I run the tool, hit apply, it's going to highlight the areas where there's non-manifold geometry. And here, these are unconnected components in the form of unmerged verts, which explains why the Insert Edge Loop tool did not go and work here. So the fix is very similar to other fixes that we've done. We go over here, select all the verts, and we merge them, and it'll only merge the verts that are right on top of each other within that threshold. Hit apply, and then we should be able to get, okay, let me run the cleanup tool, hit apply, boom. Oh, we didn't, I didn't clean it up properly. Let's go ahead and do it again. Shift right click, merge verts, there we go, and then run the tool. Oh, it's still highlighting. Huh. Yikes. Okay, let's go ahead and see what our merge settings should be. All right, I'm going to go ahead, select these verts. Shift right click, merge vertices. I'm going to lower the number. Hit apply. All right. And then let's go ahead and then I'll run the tool. Hit apply. There you go. So one thing I learned there, and one thing you need to learn, is that sometimes if you tell Maya to do something that it can't do, for apparently when I did this, shift right click, merge vertices, the other number was too big and Maya will not implode. Now in other words, all those verts at this number, we were just telling Maya to basically self-destruct that piece of geometry. And it won't do that, all right? It won't just implode to the center. It's too big a number, and Maya's going to say, gotta lower that number so that we only merge the verts that are within that math or even smaller, all right? So that was the issue with that. And again, I'm just going to go ahead, select these verts. And you can see that when I go ahead and merge the verts and we do it at a lower threshold, hit apply, there you go, it's all fixed. Okay? So there you go, unmerged verts. Watch your threshold numbers when you merge. If you get too big, Maya won't let you do the entire model. Finally, the last formation of non-manifold geometry. I call it the T formation. A lot of people do. I have a nickname called the T-Rex formation. But this one is basically an extruded edge, and it is just left there. And this piece of geometry can present a problem when you start hitting the 3 key. Watch what happens at the smoothing. Okay? You get some pinching. And that pinching is not ideal. And we also have some unmerged verts here too. Look at this. So we have 2 issues. Let me go ahead and merge those verts real quickly. All right? So now when I hit the 3 key, we still have pinching, but at least the verts are merged. But since we're not going to keep this geometry anyway, you got to decide, first of all, do you need this? Was this an accidental extrude? All right, if it's an accidental extrude, just get rid of it. All right, but I had one student who thought that that was okay to build a proper bookcase. paper thin geometry. Not so cool. So again, you have to look at the situation, what you need. Again, the word non-manifold means not able to be built in real terms, in terms of real world terms. And this connection can only exist within Maya. But even there, Maya is telling you this is not an ideal formation. All right? And some people get confused too. Sometimes this formation can also be more subtle, where maybe the edges are kind of bent like this and even close to the geometry. But that would still be considered the T formation because someone left it like that. So it's just that any material is coming out of these edges and then it's left that way. All right? So that is one of the things that we want to try to avoid. Again, get rid of these faces if you don't need them, and then run the tool. All right? We go to Mesh, Cleanup Tool, hit Apply. Nothing highlights. Beautiful. And that, my friends, is non-manifold geometry, and that is dealing with the issue of problem geometry on the ground.